Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. Welcome to the Revenge Garden. I am Carmen Cook. We woke up this morning to a little bit of snow on the ground, which was odd, but hopefully the sun is going to pop out and we are going to have a wonderful start to this week. We're going to start this weekend's readings with Mia Heintzleman's MONOPOLOVE. As I stride over to toss my cup in the bin, a familiar face on the board comes into view. Mr. Moneybags, the Monopoly mascot. I blink a few times to make sure it's not just dry contacts blurring my vision. Every time I see the cartoon character, excitement flutters in my belly. Memories of Pop and me building imaginary empires by the fireplace reel across my mind as I reach up to drag my fingers over the curled edges of the thin paper. At the top of the flyer, there's bold black headlines. 20th Anniversary Monopoly Tournament, Saturday, March 30th. See website for details. I'm still reading the registration fine print when remembering how much Penelope hated childish board games when a woman's raised voice at the register draws my attention. She obviously just rolled out of bed and is still in sleep clothes. She's wearing gray sweatpants and flip-flops with a cherry on top of the ensemble is a red trench coat. Someone celebrated New Year's Eve hard. Oh my goodness, you're kidding me, right? I promise, I have money, she pleads with the barista. She draws a breath and slowly releases it. I've got the Java Joy app. Her hands tremble, and with every shake of her head, a messy bun of thick chestnut hair threatens to spill over. Have you tried turning it off and on or checking for updates? The employee asks. Her attempt at helping is lost in her disengaged tone, though. She sighs and darts her gaze behind the woman impatiently. Customer service might be able to help. I cringe as the woman's shoulders cock back like she might slingshot her phone at the young blonde behind the register. I would. Is there any way to look me up? Please, I have the app. I come here all the time. She cranes her neck to look behind the counter. Is Lucy around? She knows me. I guess Lucy was the lucky one who got the holiday off. The woman jams her hands into her coat pockets. I have like $20 on this thing, but I got a new phone and the dang thing's acting all wonky. I don't have my wallet, but I really need a coffee. She drags out the word like it's a matter of life or death. Other patrons in line and seated around the shop look on. To me, it doesn't seem like it's worth creating a scene over a cup of coffee, but then again, everyone has their vice. Sometimes they make you do crazy things, like risking a misdemeanor over a mocha latte or relocating on a whim. Don't do it, lady. I'm begging you. It probably sounds like an exaggeration, but I'm having the worst year already. The woman pinches the bridge of her nose. I received some really horrible news, she rambles, desperately looking around. The bald man behind her taps his foot, demonstrating his growing impatience as he glares at her. Then a tall woman with short black hair, who I assume is the manager, approaches. She looks like she's about had it with demanding customers today. I should take off to meet the guy from the restoration company who's probably halfway to Pop's, but I'm strangely invested in how this plays out. I snatch the tournament flyer off the board, shove it in my pocket, inching closer to the register. Not looking for a handout, the woman darts her gaze between the barista and the manager before tossing a shaky smile over her shoulder. When she turns back, bowing her head, her shoulders curl and I feel bad for her. You can check, she says. I have money on the app. Ma'am, I don't want to have to. Hi. I step beside the woman, projecting my voice. The manager's tight smile looks like it might snap. I overheard what's going on with your phone. I'd like to help. I peek over at the woman and flash her a tentative smile. Beneath the weary, hard-shelled exterior, I register the humiliation etched on her face. One that up close is not a bad face. Beautiful, smooth golden brown skin, a small round nose, and impossibly wide 7-Up bottle green eyes flicker back at me. The funny thing is, if circumstances were different, I'd ask for her number. Forget about the fact that I'm leaving in a month to see what happens. But she's at the end of her rope. I know what that's like. I just want to throw her a lifeline. I jam my hands in my pocket, pulling out the flyer with my wallet. Monopoly? For a second, I'm thrown off by her strained voice. My eyes snap to the woman's and then down to the flyer. Mr. Moneybags grins up at us from my pocket. Yeah, there's a tournament, I say, feeling my brows crease reflexively under the weight of her scrutinizing stare as I tuck the flyer back into my pocket. This should cover what she wants, I say sharply to the manager and slide a 10 across the counter. Then I turn back to the woman. Pay it forward. I hope your year gets better. An awkward silence ensues between her and the employees as I walk away. She gets her large, hot caramel macchiato without reaching the end of her frayed rope. And maybe a good deed will reset my shitty day too. When I get to the door, I pull the lapels of my jacket tight against the cold air and fish my keys out. Wait, don't leave! I turn to find the woman's free hand waving wildly as her walk accelerates into a run. Thanks. I really appreciate what you did back there. No problem. She whips her phone out and starts swiping, tapping her thumbs around a few times before she flicks up her gaze. I have money. It's just this phone is new. What's your cash pal or your payback? For a second, I have no clue what she's talking about because I'm staring at those eyes, the rosy blush to her cheeks. She's beautiful. She clears her throat and gives me a small smile. Right, something about repayment. When I don't immediately respond, she nods more to herself than to me. That's okay. What bank are you with? She takes a deep breath, holding it while she swipes to another app. I'll repay you through the transfer app then, she suggests. Oh, no, I insist. You're good. Pay it forward to someone else. Pulling out my keys, I smile and pivot towards the door, thinking about this wild day, staying in its southern course, getting stood up, mom working Penelope into every conversation, how meeting this woman felt almost serendipitous. Unbelievable, I mutter under my breath. Unbelievable? A wide-eyed expression twists into a full-on grimace as she misunderstands me. No, I just meant... But she cuts me off. Look, I'm super grateful. Buying my coffee was sweet and sort of the only bright spot in this crap day, but if it's all the same to you, I'd like to pay you back. I blow out a breath. What's the big deal, I sigh. It's just a few bucks. Can't you accept a good deed? She gives me a blank look and then opens her mouth but says nothing. Slowly, her eyebrows squish together like she's having difficulty finding the right words. It was a nice gesture. Just a few bucks. But I can't, she says. Thanks again, really, but I don't like owing people. I'm annoyed. Why can't she just accept the gesture of kindness without making it a big deal? For a second, I take in her sweats, messy hair, and those bee-stung lips before searching her eyes. But she narrows them disapprovingly as she watches me watch her. Look, I ran out for a second for a cup of coffee. Figured it'd be an in-and-out trip, so whatever you think about me, she shakes her head. I'm no one's charity case, and I don't need to be rescued by some insanely good-looking guy with a savior complex. So just pick an app, please. She jerks her phone between us again. Despite the compliment, my body temperature rises. I finger my collar, feeling the tension in my clamped jaw as I open my mouth to say something. But then I stop short and take the phone. I force a smile as I enter my email address into the note screen she's opened for me. I guess no good deed goes unpunished. When I finish, I hand the phone back. As she thanks me and ducks out of the coffee house without a backward glance, I wait a couple minutes, warming my hands in my coat pockets. Familiar excitement flutters in my belly when my finger glides over the cool, crumpled tournament flyer. At least this day wasn't a total loss. That's Mia Heintzleman's MONOPOLOVE. Now we are shifting over to Feral Moon, which releases on April 4th by Sabrina Silvers. Kaylee McKinnon's head spun as she sat on the forest floor, leaves and other things sticking to her naked ass, the ultimate indignity her captors had visited on her. Bastards. She swallowed, trying to moisten her dry mouth, but still tasting the dirty rag they'd shoved into her mouth to keep her from screaming and biting them. Of course, the dryness could also have come from the drugs they'd pumped her full of for the past couple of weeks, or however long they'd held her prisoner. Time had ceased to have any meaning for her. Days blended into nights and all ran together. She didn't know how much time had passed since she'd been taken that night of that awful accident. She didn't know if her guard and friend Vanessa was even alive. They'd been T-boned, and then before Kaylee could react, a cloth had been placed over her nose and mouth, and she'd gone under, oblivious to anything else that happened around her. Everything had transpired within sight of her pack's boundaries, but her family hadn't been aware of her capture, and now she was far from home, on her own. First things first, where the fuck am I exactly? The large, naked male stared at her as if she was a foreign object, as if unsure what she was saying. She sighed and glanced around, her gorge rising at the sight of the dismembered bodies scattered around the clearing, the smell adding to the nausea rising within her. Combined with the drugs in her system and days of not eating, her stomach turned, and she rolled onto her knees to vomit bile onto the forest floor. Steady. A low voice spoke next to her, and the hand rested low on her back, lending her strength. She so desperately wanted to lean into it, borrowing some of that strength for herself, but another part of her warned her not to trust him. Not yet. Not until she knew exactly what was going on. When she finished retching, or rather, when nothing much came out despite her stomach cramping, she flopped back onto the forest floor and stared up at him. So, you can speak English. I suppose that tells me I'm still in North America. I wasn't sure there for a minute. Now, where the hell am I exactly in North America? Can you tell me that? He crouched on his heels next to her and studied her for a moment, giving her a view of, well, everything. She covered her eyes. Geez, I get that shifters are pretty confident and everything, but can you cover up or something? He looked around and pointedly. With what? She sat up, doing her best to cover her own nakedness, and looked at his face. Not a bad-looking male, a bit hard and rough. She'd lay money he was a dominant, if not an alpha. Great, just what she needed. Another overprotective male. I assume your clothes are here somewhere nearby? He shrugged. Maybe. Not sure how far I've run. She stared at him. He sounded unsure about his location, which was strange. Do you have any idea where we are? He scowled at her. We're still in my territory, I'm sure, but I'm not exactly sure of the exact spot. Why the hell are you here? It's not like I had much of a choice. You did notice that I was wrapped in a bag, right? A ghost of a smile crossed his face. I can understand why. You're kind of difficult. Her eyebrows rose. I'm difficult? You're the one barely answering questions. Goodness, you are worse than my brothers. I don't envy them. Where are you from? She folded her arms in front of her, on guard and covering herself at the same time. The cool night air was puckering her nipples, something she didn't want to advertise. She was an alpha's daughter and trained to be cautious about the motives of other shifters, especially a dominant male. And if he was an alpha, was he allied with her father or against him? Was he involved in her kidnapping? He pushed to his feet in one smooth motion and ripped a hole in the bag's bottom to make it into some sort of dress, then tossed it to her. Put this on unless you want to shift. Either way, you're coming with me. She clutched the bag to her chest. She didn't relish the idea of wearing the same thing that had trapped her for so long. The feel of it, the smell, sent her back to the bottom of the van, bouncing along, and the sinister laugh of the males around her in the darkness. She feared it would give her nightmares if she even touched it. He arched a brow. You can always stay naked. I like the view, but it gets cold here quickly. She reached for her wolf and felt nothing. She was gone. It was like she'd been cut off completely from her, like she'd never existed. Stuffing the terror that enveloped her at the thought of being a victim without her more powerful half, her hands trembled as she shook out the bag. No way was she going to let this stranger know how vulnerable she was. Not yet. Not until she had time to figure out if this problem was temporary. She dropped the sack over her head, feeling the scrape of burlap over her skin, and immediately felt like she was back in the van. She began to shake, her vision tunneling and the smell filling her nostrils. Suddenly, his face filled her narrow eyesight, and he shook her. Focus on me. You're right here in these woods. Your attackers are dead. They are not coming back. Not a single one got away. She blinked rapidly and focused on his harsh tone and then nodded, swallowing hard. Thanks. He dropped his hands and turned. Come on, we have a distance to go before we're safe. I thought this was your territory. Wouldn't that mean we're safe? He just kept going, striding out of sight, and she sighed and followed. It wasn't like she had much of a choice. She still had no fucking idea where she was or if she was really safe. But it had to be better than sitting in the rapidly cooling and decomposing body parts, waiting to see if any of their compatriots would come by looking for her. He had to be better than our kidnappers, right? That is Sabrina Silver's Feral Moon, which releases April 4th. So grab your copy on pre-order. Thank you again for joining me this week. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.